Hello everybody, this is Tim Millaway again for the second part of the lower thirds tutorial. So let's see what we got so far by doing a RAM preview. Okay, that's what we have so far. I also wanted to show you some alternatives that you can do here. If you notice that these come on opposite directions, in other words, the base comes on from, let's see, where is this? The base is coming on from this direction, and the middle section is coming on from this direction. If you didn't want to do that, if you just wanted to have it just go in, if you wanted it in the same direction, you certainly could. For alternatives here, like if we take our inside mask, let's have now, in fact, let's have the base and the inside mask come in the same ways. What we could do is we could actually just copy these points here, just edit copy, and we'll delete out these keyframes. Let's go to 0 and hit edit paste, and now they should come on both in the same direction. Let's do a RAM preview. Now see, they go in the same direction because we just copied those frames from there. And it doesn't have to go all the way across the screen too. You can alternate these. If we go to this keyframe here, and we take a look at where our mask is, and let's shrink this down to less than 50% to 33. And if we select these 2 points, if we only wanted to come out to, say, here, and we'll do the same thing with our base. Here's our base, and I'm going to select the mask there and the keyframe. We'll only bring it out to there. I want it to evenly match there. So when it comes out, it's not going to go fully across. I think that's because we'd have to change these keyframes also. So let's just delete those. So as you can see, that only comes out to there, so we could do the same thing again, edit, copy, and go to around 5 seconds. I think that's where we had it coming off. Edit, paste, right mouse click, keyframe assistant. You can't see that on my screen, but it's time reverse. Keyframes, do the same thing here. Edit, copy, and then edit paste, right mouse click, keyframe assistant, which you can't see on the screen right now, time reverse. So if we do a RAM preview of this, it only goes out to that portion. So there's alternate waves. I just wanted to show you some alternative lower thirds that you can do. That way you can adjust it to the needs of your project. Okay, so I'm going to Control Z everything back again. Okay, we are back to where we were. We're going to use this, and we're going to add to this project and make things better. Okay, so first we're going to change up the base here, and let's click on our base, and if we're at the projects panel, let's go to the effects panel, and let's change this ramp. We had put an effects called ramp on here, but we're not really using it too effectively right now. If you notice on this would be the X and this would be the Y portion, and if you can see a little dot moving in here, that's telling you where the color change is going to be. It's just like a gradient, and here's the bottom one, which is a little bit grayer, and so you can see that gray moving in there. Now if we move this other side, it would just kind of turn things a little bit. You see how it's and that could be an effect that we want, but that's not an effect that I'm going for. I want it to be kind of just a small gradient that shows some color change from light to dark. So my numbers are, let's see, I like just this. It's around 846, and for the other side it is 948, and we're doing a linear ramp. The other thing, for the next thing we're going to add on is an Alpha Bevel. And so I'm just going to type Bevel into here, and I'm going to take this Alpha Bevel and I'm just going to put it right on this base. And these are just some numbers that I figured out that look pretty good. I'm going to put 0.5 in here, and the light angle, I'm going to change this to 180. And I'm going to put the thickness to 3. So when I click off here, you can't see it too much with nothing here, but it gives it a little edge and just gives it some style. Now we're going to go to the inside, lower third. So now we're going to style this, and we'll click on the inside here, and our ramp comes up. So I'm gonna look at these colors. I'm gonna change these colors a little bit, and you can use any color that you want. I am just gonna pick 111899. That's the hex value, and for the end of the ramp, I'm gonna use another hex value, which is 4E559B. And again, I'm gonna change this start of ramp and end of ramp, and I'm gonna bring this to around 869. And you can see that it was way up here. You can see this. It was at 0 before, so it really wasn't having an effect on it. So I want to bring it down to like 869. And for the end of ramp, I'm going to bring this one up. It was way down here. I'm going to bring it up to 929. And so we have a nice little gradient here. So we're gonna duplicate this layer. So in order to duplicate a layer, you hit Control or Command D, and that duplicates it. So we got an inside 2 here. What we're gonna aim to do is kind of split this up a little bit, and so on this second one here, we're going to delete the ramp from there. And we're going to make the comp color white, which it already is. But if it wasn't white before, just go to Composition Settings, and actually, no, I'm sorry. We're going to go to Solid Settings, and we'll change that color to white. And just make sure when you do change the color, you hit OK, and then hit new white color. And we're going to set the opacity of this to 25%. We do that by hitting T on the keyboard and changing the opacity to 25. And what we want to do is make this comp here half the size of this one. And if we want to use our guides here, we can, drag here. What we do is come up here, right mouse click, and just hold that, not right mouse click, just mouse click on there, and just drag down, and we'll go right in the middle here. That'll give us a guide where the middle is. And so with the mask selected, and we can press M for mask and highlight that. Let's move this up. We're going to have to, let's move this down to about 33% so we can see the points. And so we're going to put a square around these points, and we're going to just move this up halfway. And if you have your guide there, it just locks in right away. And then we're going to change the blend mode, which is over here. And if you don't see this mode here, just go up here, go to columns, and make sure that modes is visible. And we're going to change this to add. We go to our lower third, we can already see what's happening here. It's looking a lot nicer. Now we're going to do something a little different here. We're going to take this inside mask and we're going to make a new comp from it. So we're going to go to our projects, we're going to take inside, and we're going to drag it right here, and we're going to make a new comp from this. And we're going to call this Inside 2. It actually just names it. So that's where we are now on Inside 2. And what we're going to do is we are going to draw a mask around this. And you'll see what I'm doing after. I'm just going to Okay, and remember our mask, if we take our selection tool here, our mask always, whatever we draw the mask around, that's what's revealed. So let's add a bevel to this. And we're going to change the light intensity to 1. And then we're going to add a drop shadow. And we just type in drop shadow in the effects, not drip. There's our drop shadow. And we're going to change the distance to 4. And our softness to 12. And then we're going to duplicate this layer here, or the comp, by hitting Control or Command D. And then we are going to open the mask by hitting M on the keyboard, and we're going to change this to subtract. So now you see what's going on here, and why we kind of did what we did. We put the drop shadow in, and we're going to fix this here. We want to do one more thing to sell this effect, and we're going to add something up here called, let's see, we have to be let's close these up. Layer, new, we're going to add an adjustment layer. And that should be on top. And we'll leave this called adjustment layer. And we're going to make another mask, except we're going to do a circular mask. And so we'll go to the Ellipse tool. So with the adjustment layer, highlight it. We're going to draw a circle somewhere right in the middle. And so what we're going to do here is add a little bit of effect to this middle to just draw the attention. And we're going to come over to here to our effects, and we're going to type U and saturation. And if I just type in U, that comes up. And we're going to drop that right in our effect. So we're going to bring our saturation, our master saturation, up to 50% by just typing it in. And you can see that it automatically draws attention to that beginning. But we want to feather this out a little bit so it doesn't look so if we go to this little arrow and bring down our mask effect tools, let's change this to 200 pixels, and then you'll see how that spreads out a little bit. So it's just a little tool. It gives your project a little bit of pizzazz. Okay, so we're in the inside comp, and now we're going to create those moving lines that go across. And this is a rather complicated thing, but it's just one of those tools that we can add. So first thing we're going to do is create a shape layer. So we're going to go Layer, New, Shape Layer. And in this case, we're going to need our magnification up a little bit higher. And if we hit our space bar, we can kind of drag and just get a closer look at what we got. And so with the shape layer, highlight it. Let's take the pen tool and let's just make a line right across here. And if you click off here, actually your fill should be 0 and your stroke should be somewhere around 3. Let's go to selection tool, and if we can solo to see what we got here by hitting a solo button, and you can see that little stroke here. And let's hit the return button on this layer, and let's just call this line. And with this selected, the line layer selected, we're going to come up here to where it says add, and we're going to use something called the repeater. And you see what just happened here? It kind of repeats the line. And if we go down on this, hit the little arrow we can change this from, see, the repeaters continue on, and we can change this. Let's change it to 100. Of course, we're not going to see those 100 lines. And let's change, we can also, if we go down to the transform repeater below that, we can change the position, and as you can see, this moves, and we're going to change that position to 12. That brings them closer together. And let's bring this to the blending mode here, you'll see blending mode. We can change this to overlay. Makes it a little less, it blends it into this piece here. And let's also change the opacity to 50% by hitting T on the keyboard and just hitting 50. So it just blends it in to our middle layer here. Now this is where it gets a little complicated. We're going to duplicate this first comp here called inside. Hit Control D, and we're going to move it on top of the line, and we're going to name it Alpha. And right here under line, we can actually change this to an alpha matte, and that puts it behind there. And so we want to animate this line. So let's bring up the position and change it to -400. Actually, not that far. See where? Let's bring it just so we can see it. And let's add a keyframe. And then let's move our time down to 10 seconds. And let's change this now to around 500. So what it's going to do is it's going to move in this direction. So if we do a RAM preview, we can see those lines moving. So this is a little bit of a complicated effect, and it's definitely more on the advanced side. But I did want to introduce this. So next thing we want to do, okay, now that we added this effect to this inside bar, if we go to our lower third, we see that this hasn't changed. So what we want to do is switch out this inside and change it to inside 2. And After Effects gives us a way to do this. If we go to, we want to be on our project panel, and then we have our inside 2 here. So this may take a couple of times to get it, but what we want to do here is kind of hold your mouse key and the alternate key on your keyboard and switch these two things out. If it didn't happen the first time, just keep trying, because sometimes it's a little bit tricky to do. But you notice no longer is inside there, and it's changed to inside 2, and now our comp, our lower third comp, has the new middle section. And what we want to do here is, we don't want this. Let's bring this up to fit up to 100% here. We don't want this news flash and these things being here. So if we could select the news flash here, and with our selection tool, let's just move this over. And we'll move this over also. It was a little bit like this, a little offset, and the anchor right under there. And that looks much nicer. And you can see how this bevel really makes this bar stand out and look very professional. Okay, well, the next thing we want to do, of course, this looks good, and And we certainly could end here, but let's just take it one bit further. Let's add a logo. And I have a logo. I have to insert our logo in here. So I'm going to just select, if you don't have a folder called Photos, you can create a folder right here and name it folders, photos or images, but I already have one, so I'm just going to hit Control Z. Actually, it won't do that, so I'm just going to delete it. But I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to go File, Import, and then I'm going to find my logo, which is right here. It's just logo channel 2. Open that up. It automatically comes in. So I'm going to add this to the top of my comp, and there it goes. It's right there. So let's move this logo where we want it to go, which is somewhere around here. It's a little big, and we can certainly scale that down by typing S, and let's maybe make it 70. And let's fit that into place right there. And we can add actually a bevel effect to this. So let's type in bevel. And we'll do that bevel alpha. We'll put it right on top of there. Let's change the light intensity to 0.8. And let's add a drop shadow. So let's just type in drop. And let's take this drop shadow, drop it right on there. And let's change the opacity to 65%. And the distance to 3. And the edge softness to 10. And now we want to animate this on. So let's go to frame 15. And we can do that. Just click inside there. We've done this before, and just type in 15, and this will bring us right to frame 15. So let's set the scale, and we do that by pressing S, and let's bring the scale to 0 and set a keyframe by hitting the time watch. And then we also want rotation, and if we hit Shift and R, now we got scale and rotation up here. So let's press 1 for that's the amount of times we want it to rotate, and then for the other portion let's put 180. And let's set a keyframe for that. Now we want to move 10 frames further. So we're going to click on this, and we're going to actually type plus 10. So we're going to actually move 10 frames. So we want our scale to be up to 70. And now we want the rotation to be 0 and 0 for this. So now when it comes out, it's going to come out making a nice turn. And so let's do a RAM preview. And now we got our lower third, and I think this is oops, we got to do one more thing. And that is we need to copy these keyframes because we want these to come off the opposite way. Let's hit copy, and then it's around the same time as these titles are coming off. Let's hit edit, paste, And remember, we're going to right mouse click on here, go to Keyframe Assistant, and go to Time Reverse Keyframes. So now this will come off the same way it came on. So now let's do a RAM preview. Okay, there it is. Our very professional lower third with logo and all the bevels and whistles that you can get. Thank you guys, and remember to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Preview.
Hi everybody, this is a special effect tutorial on how to clone music. It's actually very easy. All you need is a hat. Actually, you need a round.
So that's what we're going to do. I just want to point out a couple of things.